Alright, I think we are set up and I am live. If you are watching, please drop me a comment if the sound isn't just right. I've got some music in the background for you guys. For this, I did some broadcasting over the TSN Armada weekend and kind of got into broadcasting, so there were one or two requests to do a few more broadcasts. Somebody was asking particularly about the TSN Sandbox. During the TSN Armada Online, I got partway through writing some code for some cluster mines to be deployed by a TSN ship, so I thought I would continue with that broadcast. I wasn't able to finish it during the TSN Armada Online, so I've got myself set up. I've got some music in the background that will be shuffling and repeating. I got myself some snacks, and I have the TSN Sandbox, and I thought I would go through and just continue scripting, and if anybody's watching or wants to rewatch, they can do. I'll try and talk through what I'm doing as I'm going and see if it's of any interest to anyone. So, welcome to TSN Sandbox Coding number 1. Alright, so last time I was on the Armada Online, I was looking at this and I'd set up these cluster mines. So we'd looked at, let's get rid of this RV code here and the shuttle operations code because I don't need those open at the minute. I'd looked at adding in new comms buttons. So here I had a back button, cargo and personnel status, which is the status message for the comms console, shuttle operations, resupply operations, and specialist operations. All this coding so far was just going on to ship 1, because all I'm going to do afterwards is I'm going to duplicate it for all the rest of the ships. So it takes a lot of copying and pasting that. I might end the stream before I get to that because it'll just be a lot of repetition and a little bit boring. I'm just going to check on Discord. 1 or 2 people were asking when I was going to go live on this one, so they might end up joining the stream. If not, it's going to be recorded, people can watch it back. Let me see. So I had the specialist operations. It was on ship select 1. Now I'd taken a load of variables out because I didn't think they were working. However, they did start working, so I'm gonna put them back in. So the ship select 1 I wanted all the way through, so that it only activated, here it is, you see, when people go through and they select a particular channel number. Channel 1 corresponds to ship 1, channel 2 corresponds to ship 2, and on. So when they select channel 1, it says ship select 1. When they select channel 2, ship select 2, and it corresponds to the ship number, just so that all these comms menus will only activate for that particular ship number where there's something coming. For example, the resupply operation depends which ship it's looking for, so it's just like a variable indicator. And then I had this comms control that stepped through, so there was a sequence to the comms buttons and how they responded. So you can see here, once they've done ship select 1 and comms control is 3, it'll clear off all those channels if they are there. It'll set this indicator for a comms officer, and then it'll set up the comms controls that they can do. I had this next comms controls equals 4, so let's just double check that I've got them. I'm going to reorder things as well to make sure that like ship select 1 is right at the top, so I can always tell which one I'm looking at. Hopefully the music's not too loud in the background. I might just check the sound in a second. Let's actually check that. Yeah, I think the music's not too bad. It could probably be a little bit louder. If you are watching after I've finished broadcasting, you can comment below, say turn up the music, turn down the music. If you're watching live, then you can type straight in and I can adjust it now whilst you're watching. Don't worry, Wolf, you're not too late. I wasn't really expecting to get any people on. Alright, okay. Tell me if that's alright. If that's too loud, then I can turn it back down. The great thing is, it's not coming through my desktop this time. Last time it was coming through my desktop, and to be able to hear it on the stream, it would just replay it. Now I've got it as like a separate source, so that in fact I can show you probably. If I go like this, I've got it as a separate source here, so it won't listen to my desktop, whereas last time it was a desktop source. So I can adjust it and I can enjoy it as well. Right, so that's ship select 1 in for each of them. Good. This is quite a quiet track anyway, I think. Let's have a look. 8 mines. So I had the spawn a point, which created this point. I might change it from CL01. Something different. And then it set that point location. I have to see exactly where that point location is. And then it gathered the information about where that point was set. And it stepped through, so you can see it stepping through here. So it spawns the point, ship 1, cluster mine 1. And then it'll step through to 2. And then when it's 2, it'll step through to 3. So it goes in a sequence. That's a nice sequence. Wolf, I do have, there is a studio mode, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I downloaded this years and years ago, this OBS software, so just Wolf saying that he's been using OBS Studio because he's dead fancy, does lots of streaming. But I downloaded this years ago. I think Wolf, you were the one that told me about OBS, and I downloaded it, and I've never really used it till now. Right, so I've got cluster mine 3, and when it's 3 and activate cluster is clicked, then it will spawn the mines and it will set it to 4. So actually at that point as well, I want it to remove this generic mesh. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it here. Okay, I can see the first person I'm going to ban for distracting me. Alright. So if it's ready to deploy, then the ship 1 cluster mine will equal 1. Specialist operations check will be 1. And I'll be able to set this button and make sure the activate cluster's not on there. If it's ready to activate, so at this point it should be ready to activate. I don't think I need comms control equals 5. Specialist. Do I need that one? I don't think I need that one. I want to delete that one. Because actually it's used here and it sets it resets it back to 3, sorry. Then if it's used, again I don't think I need that there, so I'm going to get rid of that. Ship 1 select is 1. Cluster mines equal 4, so that means it will only happen when ship 1 is actually inside its menu. Then it's going to get rid of both those buttons. So where do we set those buttons? specialist. I could set them here actually. So if I copy, no. Oh yeah. So I could have them set in this menu instead. Cluster deploy and activate cluster. Paste there. So they both come up, both of those buttons, but what's going to happen is if that cluster mine is 1, then it's going to switch it off the activate cluster. If the cluster mine is 3, then it's going to switch off the deploy cluster, but it will keep the other button. And if it equals 4, in other words it's been deployed, it's going to switch them both off. And then I've got this special ops check. Where is that set? Special ops check is there. Let's see. I think that should work. Now the next bit, I need to test it. So I've saved it. Okay, give me a second while I get a screen up to be able to test it. I'll show you the testing as well. So don't panic, you're not going to miss out. I'm just loading up Artemis on another screen and I'll drag it across. Hopefully the sound's not going to be too loud and deafen me. So Wolf, what you'll see when I go and test it is I'll talk a little bit about the comms menus while I'm at it. So I'll show some of those. Alright, Sandbox, there we are. Start client. That's interesting. I'll just change that setting. Sorry, I'm just setting up a couple of things in the background here. Right, Artemis is loading up. The last time I was streaming I was using the stock Artemis server, but now I want to use the modified one, so I'm just loading that up now. I hope actually, yeah, right, alright, this is the full sandbox. In the Artemis sandbox that we used for the TSN Armada, I'd removed a lot of this code, so here you can see we've got upper arc and lower arc, because there's actually a lot more, stop flashing up there, there's a lot more areas that are built in there. So we just had the upper arc, but there is a lower arc with different allied systems. So these are all the folders for all the allied systems. You can see we've got Loria, Rima, Ashia, Maria, and here in this allied systems, if I open this one, are all the ones that we're using. So Cerberus, Promethean, Aretus, Volantis, Crescenda, Danae. Those are all the original systems. These ones with stars next to them are ones that are incomplete or needed a little bit more work, just as a reminder for me, or were planned. So there's lots of bits still to go into the sandbox. Right. Connect to TSN server. So here we go, game window. Minimize that. Game master main screen, and I need a comms menu. Just so you see, I've got my server over here as well. So I'm going to start this. Okay, as usual, nothing appears. I need a big screen message on there, really, don't I? And I'm ready to play here. That spawns. So I'm going to cycle through F7. Those are my timers that are set. Those are my variables. So I've got ship 1 cluster mine variable. Right at the top there, number 1. I can't circle it with mouse, I'm afraid. But if you look at, it says variables, and then it says ship 1 cluster mine. These bits below, I'm just going to turn this music down a little bit. These patrol X1, X1, Z1, X2, Z2. Those are going to be some AI that I was creating for enemy patrol. So what you could do is you could spawn an enemy group, and they would follow a particular patrol route that you specified on the game master screen. Right. Okay. Let's test this anyway. So. Haven't seen the TSN sandbox, TSN mod. Let's show you a sneak peek of the TSN mod. I know this is a sandbox scripting one, but that's the gate from the TSN mod. That's one of them. We've got 3 different gates that were made by a couple of people. Who made the most recent one? I think this was made a while ago by Alad, I think, but don't quote me on that. I apologise if Alad did not make it and somebody else did. There are a couple of people working on the sandbox, creating models. If anybody does like creating models, give me a shout. That's our current game. And we also have, that's just a civilian base. There's nothing else of interest really near. Anyway, looking at comms menus. So channel 1, we've got specialist operations. If I click on that, we've got channel 1 menu, back, activate cluster. Good, perfect. I'm just going to shift the Artemis into a bit of clear space here. Play to GM there. Right. So I can click back and activate cluster remains. So I need to fix that. I'm going to fix that first of all. So this is something I do is if I come across a bug, I'm going to fix it straight away. Just because if I try and remember it, then I'll end up with a list of 4 or 5 different bugs to fix. Whereas if I can fix it straight away, then it's out of the way. So I'm just going to use this one and this one. I'm going to copy them, and I'm just going to add a new comment to separate it up, and I'll paste them in there. Dead quick, dead easy, and that's done. And then really quickly here, end it, start it again, it'll reload the sandbox, and that's all I need to do to reload it, to retest the code. Move into some clear of space. I think I might have to get a helm console as well, you know. Comms. Channel 1. Specialist operations. Activate cluster. Huh. That's interesting. Let's just spawn the mines there. Right, okay. Next bug. Specialist ops. Ship 1 cluster mine is for... Okay, let's restart this again. Watch what happens. Ship 1 cluster mines is 1. Ah, it should have been cluster deploy, not activate cluster. So activate GM, Atlantis system. Yeah, the spinning station mesh in the Artemis Armada box, really what I should have done is I should have set that when it spawned it was rotated 90 degrees and then spun. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it meant going back and adding a lot of extra code, and I didn't really have time to be able to do that with organising everything else, I'm afraid. So, Channel 1, Specialist Operations. Why is Ship Cluster Mines switched to 3 when I do that? When did it do it? I need to see when this specialist ops check is being triggered as well, so I'm going to drop this in my test variables. The higher up the list the variable comes, the higher up the list on that variable list it will be. So all these are just pop-up messages, and then my test variables that I want to view that don't necessarily need to be in the start block go under here, and then oh, sorry, they went under here, but I needed them higher up because I had so many of them. Oh no, because that's those required in the start block. I'm going to do this the other way around. The Armada sandbox, yeah, it wasn't custom made for the Armada. It was this sandbox. So Wolf is just saying that the sandbox was custom made for the Armada. It was this sandbox, but I went through and I modified it so it would work with stock Artemis. There's lots of code in this that if you tried it with stock Artemis, it wouldn't be able to call it, like different ship types and things. Like in here, if I go to the spawn menu in the Armada sandbox, it had TSN, USFP, Zimni, Hegemony, and Biomex, but we've got Hjordan, USF, Natani, Caltrons. We also have some different pirates. We've got 2 sets of pirates, Euphini pirates and Skull pirates. So there's a lot more stuff in the TSN mod than what is in the stock game. But it's interesting. The TSN mod adds to the game. It changes some settings for players in the game, like damage, and it changes a lot of settings for enemy ships, like their shield value, to make them last a bit longer, and it makes the ships significantly more efficient. So you can warp 2 across a sector, the full width of a sector, and you will lose about 10 energy, so that we can travel longer distances. So it creates some modifications like that, but like all the ships and everything are identical and then added to all the ship models. So it's an extension, as it were. Right, anyway, where are we? Activate cluster. Specialist ops check. I'm going to set that to 0. going to use this in here to create like a stagger. So this won't be able to be activated until I've checked what buttons there are. Should really switch this live chat off. You keep distracting me, Wolf. Yeah, the TSN mod. I suppose the TSN mod is very, very closely linked to the Sandbox. The Sandbox uses the TSN mod extensively. It's what, with all the extra stuff that we've put in the TSN mod, it'd be pretty useless without the actual TSN Sandbox, because you wouldn't see it spawned in the solo games. I suppose I could use it to write individual mission scripts. Right, save that. But the TSN Sandbox allows a GM to do a lot more with it and to adapt missions on the fly. Alright, okay. So I think, Wolf, you were around when we just started creating the TSN mod, I think. And we were getting an idea of the direction that the mod needed to go and what we were going to do with it. It's interesting because, like, discussions between different people, you get very different opinions of what to do with the mod and what to add in there. So there's lots of different ideas and different approaches and different preferences. Excellent. Cluster deploy. Good. Right, okay. Basic. Play to GM. Okay. So when I click this cluster deploy, we're just going to check that it cycles through. Alright, yep. Ship 1 cluster mine equals 3. Let's go back to that again. Why does it cycle through to 3? Ship 1 cluster mine equals 4. It's this. It's this here. This, because as soon as that's set to 1, it activates this. But that shouldn't set. Ship 1 cluster mine to 1. Ship 1 cluster mine is set to 1 before we even begin, isn't it? This needs to be at 0. There is my problem. This won't be here, you see. If I do a find of these, ship 1 cluster mine, bring this over here. And find every single reference to this. So it's in the start block there. Cluster's ready to deploy. The first time it actually gets referenced in the sandbox is here. So it was my start block that was causing the problem. Always annoying when that happens. Right, okay, let's end this here. And I am going to take a helm screen so I can move the ship forward and not mine myself. There we go. Ship 1 cluster mine is now set to 0. Activate. Only takes a few seconds to activate. Yes. I have to just solve that. I have, because I play flight sims, I have some rudder pedals, and every time I have them switched on with and take a helms console, it automatically starts turning it because of the rudder pedals. Right, okay. Comms, channel 1, specialist operations, cluster deploy and activate cluster now are both appearing. So that means this is working because it's set in both, but it means that this is not working. It should clear it. So this isn't working, and actually here I use this reference. This is so that if we change the player side, it will still work for that. All the players, we found that a problem because the GM has controls to be able to swap the player to a different side quickly and easily, but if you do that then it can look up other things unless you do this. So I adjusted things so that things were set on this variable called player side, so when the GM changed the player side, the sandbox would track which side the player was on. So that needs to be in there. Probably needs to be in here as well, actually. Yeah. Okay. This is where scripting goes into a lot of figuring out what's wrong. You can put together all these bits, but then you got to figure out what's wrong. Specialist object is 1, specialist object 2. Cluster deploy. Activate cluster. So if I click on there, specialist object. So I'm looking up here at the variables. I can't put my mouse over it, but I'm looking up at the variables at the top. Ship 1 cluster mine and specialist object check, and I'm going to be tracking what they're saying. So when I click this, specialist ops check is still 1. Yep. So when it's 1, it should trigger that. Is there a problem with the way that it's spelled? Copy that there. Paste it there. Paste it there. Paste it there. So this isn't triggering at the minute. Let's do another find. Let's see. I'm just reading through the live chat at the minute. This should all work. Why is this not working? This is what I spend most of my time in Sandbox. You can write something. I can write something in 5 minutes and spend the next hour trying to figure out why it doesn't work. Ship 1 cluster mine is 1. Ship 1 cluster mine is 0. Because of that. Now I had ship 1 cluster mine equals 1 deliberately set somewhere, didn't I, to activate it for that ship. So let's get that. That's why ship 1 cluster mine is 0. So looking at those variables, I've completely missed that. Ship 1 cluster mine. see, so that ship1 cluster mine isn't actually set to 1 at any time to say that it's ready to deploy, because I changed it to 0 up here because that was causing my problem with this step through. But I do need that variable there to decide which button is used. What happens if I set that to 1 again? Ship1 cluster mine is 1, right, so it says ship1 has cluster mines, you're allowed to use them. So this was the issue here, it's here that's the problem. That needs to be set to 2. Oh, just a minute. Have that set to 2. And then that's 2, and then that to 3. And then this is 3, and then to 4. Oops. And then this from 4 to 5. So if I set this from 4 to 5 there like that. And then here, so it's ready to activate. When it's at 4, so that now needs to be 4. And oh, we've got three viewers now. I imagine one of those viewers is me, because there was one when I started streaming and nobody was watching. Wolf will be number 2, so we've got a third one. Hello, whoever is the third person. And then it's 5, so when that equals 5, it's been used. Step through there, excellent. Save. And start up again. Activate low rack. So in comms. Right, I'm watching this now. Ship 1, cluster mine is 1, special ops is 0. Special ops goes to 2, cluster deploy, excellent. Alright, let's see. So, still set to 2. That's good. And it should, hopefully, when I click specialist ops, it should. Specialist ops check to 1, yeah. So, that should cycle it for me. Specialist ops, cluster deploy. As CL01, 90 degrees. Alright, it needs to be 180 degrees. I'm setting up new buttons here now as well, so that when you've clicked deploy and it's got all the data, it's going to give you the activate cluster straight away. Because you see there, when I clicked cluster deploy, that button stays, but I want that button to go, and then I want it to switch to activate cluster once it's ready to go. I also want to change that position that CL01 spawns to 180 degrees. That should put it directly behind. Could always set to 0 degrees, that'd be fun for whoever's then deploying them. See the cluster mines fire out the front. Right, you can see there as well, ship cluster mine is 4, specialist ops is 2. So those little modifications are in. Move the player over here. Right, so we're in position, that's good. Comms, channel 1, specialist ops, cluster deploy there. Go back, channel 1, specialist ops, excellent, good. And that specialist ops check up here, in fact I can show you, up here is now set to 2, so it's done that check for me, that's good. Cluster deploy, and you see it's automatically switched to activate cluster. So there's a cluster, and there's the marker. I've got this marker here is part of the TSN mod actually. If I go to cam here, that's interesting. I thought it would change the actual view there. Nope. Okay, so that is I made a sphere in what's the program called? I can't even remember what the program's called now. In Maya, that's it. It's 3D scripting program. 3D modeling program. So I created that in Maya, transferred it into a DXS file using the Dell Ed software, which you can use to create things and save things as a DXS file. And then I put it in, and then I used the actual mesh off it to create a net that I coloured green, so it gave like a transparent marker. I'd like that actually to move, to rotate. So along with this set relative position, I'm going to add to the properties of this. So properties, set numeric property. What will be cool is I could get it so you deploy it, and then it could have inertia as well. So it would drift slightly. That'd be cool. Generic meshes, angle delta. So the angle delta is it constantly rotating, and I just want it to set it to, let's set it to a very small number. I think the gates are set at 0.3 rotation, so actually maybe 0.6 would do. And then if you notice, I'm going to this editing dialog, because if I click on here it gives me the list of all the names in the sandbox, which there are a lot. So to try and go through this list constantly would be impossible. You can see these are all the gates that created, all the base that created, different radiation monitors and things. In fact, it's there. There we go. So rather than having to scroll through that to find it, I just go straight to this. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back here, end that, start again. Yeah, you think that's a long list? I'm gonna try. That's just a generic mesh list. There's even longer list. What's I suppose actually it's a much shorter list because of the random naming system. All ships that are spawned are named with 2 dashes as their name, and then it's reset to a different name, which is good in one way because then I can randomly generate the names, but bad in another way because you've got to be careful that you don't duplicate names, so it's quite hard to do. Anyway, back to comms, channel 1, specialist ops, cluster deploy. I might put a little bit of a timer between those two coming up. So there's a cluster. Now if I go back to main screen and give it review, there we go, it's rotating. Perfect. Now let's get some distance because I don't want to be next to that when I activate it. There we go. Master. So comms, activate cluster. Where is it activated? It's activated up here. Right, that means that get numeric property isn't working. So I'm going to have to fix that. That, and also when I want to activate the cluster, if you notice the button stayed, I want the button to disappear, so I'm going to drop that in there. Let's see, activate cluster. CL1 mine position X, CL1 mine position Z. Gather data. That's why, because I don't want it there. I want it as the CL01. That's where I want it to be activated. I think originally what I was going to do is I was going to have it come straight out the back and deploy, instead of having a point that you could drop down and then use to deploy. But I changed my mind, as you can tell. So now it goes off this marker. Where was that now? That in there. That in there. Good. 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 Right. I think this should be good. We may have got to the end of it, which would be good if it works. Play to GM. Comms, channel 1, specialist ops, cluster deploy. There's a cluster mine. It's very close, isn't it? Then if I go back, it'll disappear back, all the way back to the menu, go into specialist ops, and then it's activate cluster there. Good. Again, I want to open it some distance because I don't want to be caught out by my own cluster mine. Be no good. Activate cluster, that disappears. Still goes up there. Right, okay. So it must have gathered this. Now I think with this get numeric property, I think you have to create these in the start block, or have them set beforehand somewhere. So I'm going to take, so like what it's trying to do is get that position X and set it to this variable, but this variable is never created in the game. So I need to create this variable in the game. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Here. So I'm going to create the variable here. Could also get the Y coordinate for it, I think. And set it the same height as players, because at the minute it'll just set on the plane. But that's another bit of scripting that I'll do later, I think. So these are set to 0. Because it's going to be a get property, it's going to be set as a float instead of an integer. I prefer integers, but this has got to be set as a float. That's something that came up on the forums. It was restricted to float values only. So it will get the mine data, it will set position X to this variable which I've defined here. If the cluster mine is ready to play, I've defined it, and then I gather it and set it to that variable, and then here I use those positions. Right, okay, let's see if that works. 0, 0 is the top right hand corner of the map. Wolf was just asking, is 0, 0 the top right hand corner? It is. So this point here is 0, 0. This point is 100,000, 0. This point is 100,000, 100,000, and this one's 0, 100,000. So yeah, X coordinate goes that way, and your Z coordinate goes that way. Y coordinate is up and down. Play to GM. Right, well, I hope my sound is still alright and the music isn't drowning me out. So channel 1, specialist ops, cluster deploy. There's a cluster mine, so that bit's working fine. Distance. The other option is I could literally pick it up and drop it over here, like select to GM there. But now that I've done that, the mines are going to spawn around here. Huh, that's interesting. Maybe this is activate cluster. It's done it again. Right, I need to see what's going on with these variables. Maybe they do have to be set in the start block. So there's cluster mine position X and position Y. I've not used the get object property a lot. In fact, this is probably one of the first projects that I've used it with. I was using it for the patrol numbers. So these patrol numbers here were for the get object property, and I think that's why they were under the required variables. Play to GM. Right, let's see what happens when I drop that there. Aha, look, it's got the coordinates. Very nice. Now, helm, accelerate out of here. It's interesting because as Game Master, if I move that, those coordinates over here are not going to change. So I've got to be mindful of that. That's where getting the object numbers will make a difference. Right, activate cluster. Still done it. So the CL01 mine position X, position Z is not being read and set by the mines. Spawn cluster mines. So this isn't working. But this is working. Variable is never set. Oh, because that thinks that's a subtract. CL take away. I wonder if I put it in brackets. Nope, it still thinks it's a subtract. Damn it. Right, so edit. Replace. CL01. Let's find all of those actually. Double check. CL01, CL01, CL01. Okay, CL01. Oh, I want to take that. And I want to replace it with I wonder if I could use it like that. It's the name that's the problem. Let's go here, end, start. Should have really spotted that it was a subtract. The mission editor is quite nice actually because here it underlines it if it's not set. So for example, if I put that subtract back in, it's underlined that bit in blue because it recognises that as a variable, and that in bit in blue because it thinks that that bit's a variable as well. So it separates up where the operation is. So I should have recognised that. Never mind, found it. Play to GM. Comms, channel 1, specialist ops, cluster deploy. CL01. Over here, it's got coordinates, perfect. Let's not kill myself. Comms, activate cluster. Oh yes. Done it. Perfect. I think I might put one in the middle as well, you know. And I'm going to change when it gets the data as well. So now this time, because I've moved the activate button, so what I've done here is I've moved it so instead of it being the spawn that activates, instead it's going to be the gathered data that activates first. So I need to actually move this as well into here, like that, and then this time when you click it, it will get the position, then it will spawn them at that position. That will mean that a game master, for example, could reposition it if they wanted, and because of that as well, I could have it so that the shuttle could fly out and collect that point again, or the comms office could remove the marker. So actually I could add in another button here that when it's ready to activate, it creates a button saying change or like redeploy, so that you could switch it off and back on. So if I go here like this, and go here, play to GM, so comms goes through, specialist activates. You can see now over here, cluster mine position isn't set at this point. So I'm going to get out of here, like that, and then here I'm going to go to, sorry, comms, activate cluster, and now it gets the position and it spawns the cluster. Cool. Why did it not put the one in the middle? Oh, has it overlapped it there? I want one in the middle. With a radius of 0. I wonder if I just know that field actually. Circle. With the radius of 1. Right, okay. End, begin. Ready. Oh, we're getting there, we're getting there. Oops, wrong button. I'm just going to move the player out of the way like that. Activate cluster. And we're done. Cluster mines added to the TSN sandbox. I could even make that like a little rig of 4 or something, or one just inside. And then play to GM. There you go. There's a custom mine field. Alright. So the next bit, I need to go through all the bits that I've added, and I need to add them 8 times. So what I'll do for that is where I've referenced ship 1 here, that 1 I'll change to ship number, that 01 I'll change to ship number. This one here I'll change to ship number, so that I can just copy and paste it all and then find and replace ship number. And then up here I'll have to grab this and copy and paste that I'll have to grab these bits and copy and paste that. I think that's it, isn't it? These bits. So there's going to be a lot of duplicating code there, which I'm going to come back to. I may do, what time are we on now? 9 o'clock. I might not be doing that this evening. I might do it tomorrow evening instead. And if you're interested in seeing me create it so I can duplicate it relatively quickly, then you can add to the comments, or you can tell me in the Discord, the TSN Armada Discord channel, and I will do that. If not, I'll do it whenever without broadcasting, and then I will go back to this bit. So the other bit that I was working on was AI in the sandbox. I was creating new AI because I've got the original AI up here, but this was new AI code to be able to make the enemies react a little bit better. Not only that, but it was to make it so that the GM could define what AI enemies were spawned with. I could give you a sneak peek of that actually. If I go into the spawn menu, here we've got AI setting. So the GM could change the AI type, like hunt enemies of whatever you're going to spawn, hunt stations, hunt or follow players. So it was hunt players if you're an enemy, follow players if you were ally. Guard stations, patrol, which is the bit that I was working on. So the patrol, the idea would be you click patrol, change it to patrol there, and then you could deploy like 3 or 4 markers, and then the ships would spawn and they would follow that patrol route. But you can see, oh, I've got the markers deployed. So you go marker 1, that's the first marker, marker 2, that's the second marker. When I press marker 3, it deletes all those 3 markers, but then it sends the AI to those 3 points. So my third marker would have been there. But that was getting a bit more complex, that. Right, anyway, I am going to finish this up here because I want to go for a bit of a wander. I hope it was interesting. And I will see you next time. What I'll do is I'll announce on the TSN Armada Online Discord when I'm live streaming, because I know there's quite a lot of the Artemis community in there now. And I might also put up like a post on the forum so you can have a check and maybe make it a regular thing. I don't know, we'll see. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.